It is 10-12. I've had three trades, and I want to see if SCYX is going to hold this uptrending trend line, and maybe it can do something more over a longer period of time. But let's go over the first trade, which was OSCR, and this one ended up working, but I didn't really like the way it was trading too much. I did buy 25 shares at 940, which was right here, and this was at 661 and a half. I got in it because it was looking like it just, had this baby uptrend, but then it sold off. It went red briefly, but it wasn't able to stay red. And ideally, I think a better entry would have been at maybe 650 at the most, when it looks like it's trying to turn around and no longer be red on the day. And also liked how 660 was like this nice round resistance level, this nice round number, and it was looking like it was going to break above 660 and hold above it. So that's why I was in it at 940, which was again right here. But I felt like I was just chasing it, where maybe it has this uptrend and then sells off, and then maybe it uptrends right here, doesn't quite break this level, maybe sells off a bit more, and maybe gets under VWAP, which I think is accurate here, and then perhaps maybe touch this green to red line, but not as much as it does here, and then it could work out even more. I just felt like I was in a top, so I did sell this one very quickly the next minutes, and that was at 662. So it did work out actually, and it got as high as $7. So I'm glad I was on the right track. I just didn't like how, it didn't offer like one more drop before it worked. It could have been like an inverse head and shoulders too, a shoulder head, and then if it drops again, a shoulder, I would have felt more confident, and I would have had more shares ideally, and I just think it would have been a higher odds setup. It still worked out, but I just don't think the odds were that good. But again, it clearly worked out here, and this was nice. And I do need to get better at holding setups for a longer period of time, because this one, just went up 40 pennies in the course of what, like 20 minutes, which is a long time for me. I need to get used to holding on the setups longer if they actually work, which in this case it did work. And then I did trade SCYX. Yeah, I want to see if it can break this 286 level. I traded it first at 1006, and this was like an inverse head and shoulders right here. I was in it at 269 and a half, so right around here is when I got in, and it looks like an inverse head and shoulders, shoulder, head, shoulder. Also like how it broke this downtrending trend line. This could also be like a higher low off of here, and it's up. I think it's up on good news. There is a lot of potential resistance levels, but there isn't like big volume days, at least not that I really saw. I mean, there was one way back here, but this was a while ago. So it wasn't like something where it's had like a bunch of, big volume days and maybe there were too many bag holders. And after it stopped selling off, I thought maybe it could try to turn around and make a move towards the upside. And I did get out of this one at 10:07 the next minute. I forgot the reason why. I think it was because of oh, I remember. I got in it because, as you can see, this was 269 and a half, and then what happened was is that when I got to 270, which was like a mini resistance level, there were a lot of sellers at the ask with a lot of size. So it looked like it was going to break 270, but then when all of those large sellers showed up, not sold up, it just didn't seem like it was going to break it, or at least right there. So I did sell for that reason. But then once it actually did break above 270 and all the sellers there, I did enter again at 10:08, which was right here. I think, yeah, the one before this green candle, I did get in at 271 and a half. So that was roughly right here. And I did sell 10 at 280. That was at 10:10 right here. I did sell some right at 1010, so right here at 280. And then I did sell more at 278, the same minute 1010 right here, and I sold the rest at 280 at 1011. It just seems like, okay, it broke above 270, but it wasn't doing anything exponential. Maybe I should have expected that, because this thing doesn't really seem to trade all crazy. Like maybe it breaks this level, it shoots up, and then it halts or something like that. But it's still hanging in there, and I want to see if it can try to break VWAP, which is 290. Yeah, VWAP is 289 now, but it was 290. If it could break above VWAP, That might be nice, and I might consider trading it. Perhaps not, but it will be like an inverse head and shoulder, shoulder, head, shoulder, and then, you know, if it maybe downtrends and not get below this level, it could be like a higher low, and then that could break it, or maybe it could break it right now, although I wouldn't really like that as much. Those are my thoughts right now. I'm not up very much, but yeah, there was definitely potential, especially with OSCR over a longer period of time. It is 11:41 p.m. and I'm here to call it off. Overall, I'm going to be up on the day, I believe, what is it? Yeah, $4.69. And that was three trades, one with OSCR, two with SCYX. And as for OSCR, this one did end up working out. And in theory, it never did break under my risk level, which would have been a close under VWAP. I just didn't like how I felt like I was in the top part of a bounce and then maybe a chase. And then on top of that, this thing trades with a spread sometimes, so I was worried that I'm in the setup and then it just has like a big downtrend here and then, that'll be pretty painful. So I considered my risk level being VWAP if it were to close under VWAP, and I just didn't want to be a part of that where maybe it sells off and it's all the way down here to 637 and then it closes and opens a new candle under VWAP, and then this is pretty bad. But that was a situation with this trade. It did end up working out over a longer period of time. It did get as high as, I guess, realistically, maybe $7. Let's see what a sell at 7 would have been. Okay, so yeah, that would have been about 5%, not bad. A lot more than what I made. And then I did trade SCYX twice, but it was the same setup. The first one being in the beginning of this inverse head and shoulders at 10:06. Again, it looked like it was going to break above 270, and I was in it for that reason. Too many sellers, but I did get in at 10:08 when it actually broke above the level at 271 and a half. And yeah, I could have used the trend line, and it did break the uptrending trend line eventually. I guess I don't have the stock here anymore because I accidentally had E-Trade closed without yeah, I had E-Trade closed without saving, so it lost the ticker here, but it did break this uptrending trend line eventually. You can see by that red candle right there. And yeah, it never got above VWAP. It did get close to VWAP, so I'm not too upset with my sell and my average being 279, so just under 280 because of the fact that it did get close to VWAP, but it never really got to VWAP or broke above it, so it just didn't really work out all that nicely. And it looks like it did do a head and shoulders after this inverse head and shoulders, the shoulder, the head, and then the shoulder here, then that broke the neckline eventually, or if not quickly here, tried to regain itself, failed, and then that was a pretty big sell-off. So there was actually a pretty good short setup here. That's pretty much it. I'm going to have to update and make sure I have all the tickers again because I did not close E-Trade here without saving. Yeah, but that's it for today. I'm glad that OSCR worked out, even though I wasn't really in it. And then I'm glad that I did try SCYX, especially once it was actually working and breaking above that breakout level of 270.